All right, you can tell that I had a hand in organizing this conference because I get to interview Cameron. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Oh my God.
On behalf of all of us in the room and watching today, I do want to take a moment to say how sorry we are for the losses that you've suffered and continue to suffer as a community. We really appreciate the energy it took to be here.
You know what's bizarre? This morning I woke up at what I will shamefully admit was like 8:30. I should have woken up earlier, here for work. And I opened up my phone and I saw just a mountain of text messages. And I said, this is the last thing I like to wake up to. The last thing I like to wake up to is anybody needing anything from me. But I'm sure there are a lot of parents in here who completely understand that. But I open up my phone and my girlfriend's little sister, who is also my best friend in the whole world, whether or not my girlfriend likes that, she starts texting me, Nicole doesn't have her phone, Nicole doesn't have her phone, we're locked in the room right now, it's a code red. Now, if any of you have ever been slapped awake, that's how you get slapped awake. Because suddenly I went from my groggy mood to, okay, this is a problem. This is a problem. Because at my girlfriend's high school, and it's the high school right next to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, she is a junior, and already there have been 2 different code reds where there has been a student who has been reported to have a firearm at school. And school's not even over yet today. So I ended up waking up just in a flurry of talking to the sister, her mom, and having to Twitter direct message her from her friend's computer that she's all right. And that's just another, Thursday?
Yeah.
That's just another Thursday here in the United States of America, in a community that was tattered by a mass shooting and then 2 suicides within the past month. The sister school just had another code red today. And that's normal. And you know what they're not going to talk about Monday? The fact that they had a code red today. You know what they probably won't talk about tomorrow? The fact that they had a code red today. My girlfriend calls me and she says, the thing that annoyed me the most about school today was the fact that I had to miss 8th period because I had a test. So if that goes to show how much of an issue we have to deal with right here, I don't know what else does. Also, hey everyone. I'm Cameron, I'm 18. I'm 2 years older than Common Sense, isn't that crazy? Common Sense was founded to protect our children from tech. And I'm proof that we really, really need to keep doing that. Because I'm 18 years old. I'm the target demographic of who Common Sense is trying to help. And boy, do I need as much of it as I can get. When I'm away from my mobile device for 5 minutes, I get the nervous tick of a parent away from their child. When I don't check Instagram or Twitter for a couple hours, I'm nervous that the whole world is going on without me and I don't know what's happening. But a lot of people in this room, raise your hand in this room if you are over the age of 18. Okay, a lot of people in this room remember a time when you were able to live without that. Yeah. And it's as though these things are this is the mic. It's as though these things are becoming part of our body. If you take this away from me, I feel the way I can imagine somebody with body dysmorphia will, because I feel like part of me is gone. Because this is part of me. Oh, I have a text from Hannah. I'm going to respond real quick. This is who I am. You know how quickly I text? I was raised
fast.
on this. I didn't actually send anything. And you know what? I don't want to be that guy. Actually, I do. I love being that guy. I'm one of the good ones. I put my phone away for hours at a time. When I'm doing yoga class, I leave my phone in the car. When I'm doing hot yoga, I leave my phone at the car. And when I'm doing vinyasa, I leave my phone in the car. And most of my friends cannot do that. And it's up to the people in this room, the people who care enough about keeping children and everyone else safe from tech, to do something about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, you've also used your phone and social media for tremendous good.
I'm so sorry.
I do, as a longtime adult, over 18, I think apologizing to your generation on behalf of the many generations prior that haven't kept students safe in a space that should be, their schools. You're groundbreaking where there should already be roads. And breaking ground you are. Let's talk about what your impact has been. March for Our Lives numbered over 800,000 people. Since then, states across the nation and Congress have passed 67 gun violence prevention laws. I think that deserves an applause. So let's talk a little bit about how social media fits into this and how you're able to have this tremendous impact. And first, maybe go back a bit. Talk about your experience with social media, maybe throughout middle school and high school, and what that was like.
Middle school was when we were all groomed into believing that social media is real life. And that's the big problem. Because I know a lot of people out there who look like they have the most incredible lives ever on social media. And I know them personally. I know they're losers just like me. But the great thing about social media is so many people think it's so real that if you can create a good life for yourself online, it's as though you have one. That's why influencers exist. And I would like to apologize on behalf of my generation for influencers. Because influencers, in case you are not aware, have any of you seen the Fire Festival documentary? In case you are not aware, influencers are people who are paid to, and that's our fault. You didn't miss anything. They are paid to. I know several influencers, and they do absolutely nothing. And they are the result of social media being mistaken for real life, because as I was in middle school and high school, I would look at the internet and say, that's what's going on right now. And now I realize when people look at things like my social media and my Instagram, my Twitter, they think I'm inspiring. Could you guys imagine? But the point is, I think that, you know, I'm 18. When I started middle school, I was 12. That was back in 2011. Ugh, I was born in 2000. I was born after President Bush got elected. Well, after people told you that President Bush got elected, because it was the first time. And that, but as I was coming up into adulthood, that's when it started to become so very real. I think even the millennials have at least a baseline understanding of the difference between life and social media. They ignore it, obviously, but they know what it is. Mm-hmm. My generation, I can't get away from it. Yeah. So when the shooting happened, I said, the whole country is going to be looking at us. Mm-hmm. We're a school that is predominantly white, and we all have a lot of money, so people are going to actually care this time. Because, I mean, yeah, sorry guys, a lot more shootings happened than 17 people being shot in Marjory Stoneman Douglas, except most of the kids at Douglas look like this, so people actually care. And I knew that everybody was going to be looking at us. And one of the things that makes our activism very different from other activism around the country is most activists have to work their whole lives and their whole careers to get people to care about the issue. Yeah. They have to get noticed. There are activists out there who work a lot harder and more diligently than I do and dedicate a lot more time and effort because they have to make sure people know what their cause is. With a mass shooting in a community like Parkland, everybody's already looking at us. So the job wasn't to get people aware, it was to divert their attention to what we thought mattered. Because I grew up on school shootings. I was born within 2 years of Columbine, which means I know what this is like. This isn't new for me. There are a lot of older people who are seeing this in the past 20 years as though it's a new thing. I'm not even 20. So 20 years for me is, I literally cannot wrap my head around it. So we saw Columbine, we saw Sandy Hook, we saw Vegas, and we knew what the narrative was. They were going to come to our town. We have a small town. The shooter, like most mass shooters at schools, was a misunderstood, troubled, early 20s, late teens white guy. I mean, that's how it is pretty much every single time, right? And we knew what was going to happen. A camera crew was going to come by. They were going to do a long panning shot of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School and say, Parkland was a small town. People didn't want this. The shooter was a misunderstood boy. Poor kid, had to be bullied so much that he shot a bunch of people. Look at this mother, she's crying. Excuse me, mother, are you crying? Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. Let's go cover something else. And we didn't want that. We wanted people to look at what we thought the actual solution was, which was gun control. And, do you want me to answer that? I will. I'll tell him you're in something right now. So creating a movement online, there's a lot of different ways to approach it. And the way we had to approach it was everybody's looking for somewhere to go. Let's create a path to what we consider the solution is. I tweeted one thing, and I woke up in the morning, and I had 28,000 followers. That was 28,000 people who were about to listen to what I have to say. I was an aspiring Jewish stand-up comic. That is dangerous, because people were looking up to us. And that goes to show, that's the theme of what we're talking about here. Social media can get a little, whatever I am like me, in front of hundreds of thousands of people at the time. Now I have around 500,000 people following me, and it's my responsibility to use that platform for good. And eventually I will.
And you really have been able to speak to hundreds of millions, and without social media, that amplification really isn't possible. What does that what does that feel like in terms of that responsibility when you have that big of a megaphone?
So I'll ignore the fact that I tweet about Broadway a lot, because that'll get me in trouble.
No, I'm for it.
The fact of the matter is, a lot of people talk to me about Gen Z issues, because I'd like to think I understand them. But I'm also I don't want to be that guy again. I'm going to say that at least 6 times. I also feel like an old soul, in the sense that I look at my generation from the perspective of, how are we letting this happen to ourselves? How are these dumb kids? Wait, I'm these dumb kids, and I'm doing all of it. It's like we're stuck in a rut, and that is the reason activism works so well online. Is online is all we've got anymore. All we do, everything my friends and I do in our social lives, in our professional lives, it exists so we could put it online. There's so many parties I went to in high school that I had no desire to go to, because I would have rather just spent time with 4 of my friends that night, that I went to so I could post a picture there. And then I left. And I still do that, but tech is part of our brains.
Yeah.
Tech has become an extension of our brain, and to reach people, all you have to do is put something online, and it's going to happen.
And you're certainly modest. I mean, yes. I mean, I think you're able to reach people online, but that turned into 800,000 people, coming out and marching, has turned into laws. You've been able to use the power of social media and really to translate that into other types of action. So you should definitely give yourself that credit. And social media also meant that you saw videos in real time on Snapchat, and we saw the same recently in New Zealand.
Yeah, the live stream.
What do you think platforms need to do to change what gets amplified and how?
I think, I was reading this morning because I wanted to bring this up today. There was a video that the shooter from my school released where he said, "Hi, my name is, and I'm going to become the next big mass shooter." He said that his goal was around 20, which he shot 34 people, killed 17 people, shot 34 people, 2 more people just died. But he said one thing that I think needs to resonate with everybody in this room. So I'll allow it to echo through your brains. He said, "Eventually you'll all know my name." And look, I don't want to cause anybody to have to visit anything that's dark for them. But just random question: how many people here know the name of the shooter from Marjory Stoneman Douglas? Okay, that's actually nice. I like how low that is. But a lot of people do. This kid became a household name. Was it the Boston bomber that was on the cover of Rolling Stone? Yeah, it's the celebrity effect. If you're somebody who is clamoring for attention, clamoring for that feeling that you exist on this planet, and if you have been pushed to such an extent, you see how these people want to kill people. You see how these people want to do it, because if you go out there with a semi-automatic weapon or a couple of pistols in your hand, and you can knock down 25 people, your face is going to be on the national news. Everyone in the country is going to be looking at you. I mean, I personally don't know the name of the shooter from New Zealand. I hope you guys don't either. I think they handled that very well. I don't know who the hell did that. I don't remember the name of the Santa Fe shooter. And that's very good, but tech specifically needs to take more steps to prevent these people from becoming celebrities. And that's difficult, because we got a First Amendment, baby. I love the First Amendment. It gets me out of a lot of trouble. And we have to figure out how to toe this line. But live streaming a mass shooting, that's how you inspire mass shooters. I saw fan accounts made for the shooter at my school that drew fan art for him, that praised his actions, and they had a couple hundred followers. So right now, social media platforms are being used at the same time to start movements to prevent tragedies, and also to give these murderers a chance to become cult classics.
Yeah.
Because the shooter from my school, when it comes to infamous people in the world, is like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You've got these mass murderers out there who are well known, and then you got him, and he's got a following. And sometimes he comes to your town. No, I'm just kidding. But you see this a lot, and you see that a lot of these evil people are getting the exact attention they want, and it's because of these social media platforms. And that's not me claiming that these social media platforms are twirling their mustaches in the morning saying, how can we give mass shooters a platform? But it's a multifaceted issue, and it's one that my feeble little brain certainly can't figure out, and it's up to you guys to do it, but it's one that we can't ignore, because giving a platform to everybody is terrific, until that platform is being used by people who want to mow down 17 people in a classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was my answer.
So in terms of movement building, things like Twitter's hashtag feature, which was actually user-generated, helped bring about Never Again, Me Too, Black Lives Matters. Are there other features of social media that you really feel like have been a force for building a movement and have really helped in terms of spreading your message?
I think everything is a double-edged sword. Hashtags are a double-edged sword. Direct messages are a double-edged sword. Direct messages are great because I get to reach out directly to people who have questions. People who say, hey, I'm from Townville, Kentucky. That's my new fake city. I'm going to use it in every time I speak. Townville, Kentucky. And I want to get involved and I want to help, but I don't know how. I can directly reach that person and tell them what I think they could do. I also get a lot of pictures of penises. I get at least 40 penises a day. And now, mind you, Twitter and Instagram have features that blur out images from people who don't follow you. But, you know, there's a lot, guys. I've seen too many. I've seen too many for being 18, and they don't stop. But I can also inspire young activists directly to get involved, and that's terrific. But direct messages are like anything else online, double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the hashtag feature is a great way to get movements going. Mm-hmm. I think that, I mean, it's hard not to admit that these big social media companies are censoring a lot of people. I just think they're censoring the wrong people. Mm. And sometimes the right people. Don't get me wrong. I love that Facebook is taking down groups that put swastikas and me in the same picture. Mm. I don't like to be in the same picture as a swastika, and a lot of groups, a lot of white supremacist groups out there were using my friends and I as bait to get more people excited about their white supremacy. Mm. And a couple of them actually said that I endorsed them, which as a Jew was very bizarre because Jews generally are very anti-swastika.
Yes, this is true.
There's the original version there was a lot of bad stuff. There was a lot of awful things. People photoshopping my face onto some very bizarre images. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to be having this breakdown in front of you, but boy, did they Photoshop me into some strange things. I had no idea that I had done such lewd things with George Soros. It really came out of nowhere. But he's got money.
No sorry is necessary. No one at 18 has gone through what you've gone through, so you're good. We can work it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up to questions in a minute. I just want to read a tweet from you from a couple days ago, which you should all follow him if you're not already.
Dear, no.
My generation's crippling mental health issues and tech addiction are problems that have a lot of the same roots and a lot of the same solutions. We need to be more mindful about how we use technology before we all lose our minds completely. Can you talk more about this, particularly those same roots, same solutions?
Sure. I think that I've been to the bottom. I've been at a point where I thought about what the world would be like if I wasn't there anymore. And I thought about dying, and I thought about all the things that any kid contemplating suicide would think about. I thought, you know, all the people who wronged me, that'll show them. I thought, all these colleges that aren't accepting me, that'll show them. I had this vindictive mindset. And I said, if I offed myself, I bet a lot of people that messed with me, especially on social media, would feel like garbage. And then I realized that a lot of the people that I hated and a lot of the people that I considered doing that to hurt, they feel the way I do. And a lot of the trolls online, and mind you, the trolls online were not the people who ruined me. It was people that I believed in and was close to. But a lot of those people who are hateful on the internet, they were going through what I was going through. And they were just taking it out in a very, very, very bizarre penis-filled way. And you're allowed to laugh, it's funny, it's penises. So I look at these individuals and I say, I know how I feel right now, and I would not wish that on my worst enemy. The people right now that I hate the most in my life, I bet they feel like I do, and I bet they feel as lost as I do. And I can't imagine that they have to go through what I'm going through, and I feel bad for them. Because being online, you get so many people out there that either treat you like you are a world leader or treat you like you're nothing. I'd like to think I'm somewhere in between those two. I think I'm definitely not a world leader, definitely not. And considering the fact that I'm made of atoms, I'm not nothing. But you know, I've got 500,000 people-ish on Twitter, and I'm an 18-year-old white boy who comes from a privileged socioeconomic area. For a while, I thought I was the shit. Because when you're that old and you're a dude and you're 18 and you came from a privileged area, you think that you're right about everything. And I thought I was right about everything. And suddenly I realized, no, I've got just as much to learn as everybody else. And that hit me in the face. Because when you're put up on a platform and you're put up in front of people, you lose touch with who you are. And it became an out-of-body experience. Last year was an out-of-body experience for me. I felt like Cameron was this vessel for a movement, and the side of me that had any spirit was gone. And the worst thing was I had the guilt of thinking, who am I to feel pain when there are 17 families from where I come from that every day are walking by bedrooms that used to be inhabited by people. So between survivor's guilt, between the pain of being told that you're some sort of national hero when in all reality I'm just a schmuck like everybody else. I think all 7 billion people on this planet are schmucks, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting myself lower than anybody else. But I lost it, and I almost lost my life. And a lot of people who cared about me almost lost somebody they cared about. And I gotta tell you guys, I don't wanna freak you guys out. I got offline for 2 weeks, and I felt amazing. I felt so good. I felt like it was the before and after of the mental version of a Jenny Craig commercial. And I felt like my brain had been eating these delicious microwavable foods and was suddenly a new person. So now I use Twitter for my computer and sometimes my phone, but I don't have the app. When I have the app, I look at it too much. I use Instagram so I could post things and check in, make sure all the penises that are being sent to me are good this week. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to add some levity. I was just talking about suicide. You can laugh. It's penises. Again, I'm a teenager. We can all be teenagers for a little bit. Let go. We're at Common Sense. We have fun at Common Sense. But I could talk to all of you from the perspective of somebody begging individuals and businesses. I could talk to you from the perspective of somebody who needs financial aid from Georgetown. And I could talk to you from a lot of different perspectives. But as a son and a teenager and a child, to all the parents here and all the aspiring parents, and hopefully no former parents, I know this is a talk about law and business, but from a human perspective, you need to make sure that your children and grandchildren are understanding that social media is not real life, because it's already messing us up. I've got a little sister, she's 12. She's already much further ingrained than I am in this. You'd think 6 years wouldn't be that much of a difference. It is. And I can't imagine having a child right now. First of all, I'm 18, so I definitely can't imagine having a child right now. But I can't imagine having a child right now and raising them into a world where all their friends are cyborgs. Apple Watches, the iPhones, the AirPods. I mean, tech is becoming physically part of our bodies. And you all owe it to yourselves and your children and your friends and everyone to remember that sometimes, you could put your phone on the table and walk away for a couple minutes. I'm not going to do it because I'm waiting for a text message, but it's hard.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have some questions from the audience? I have more, but let's open it up. Yeah, a couple questions.
Come on, Ethan. This better be a good one.
So as a fellow Jew who also wanted to be a comedian at 18, I really appreciate you for going for it. And what are your plans now with where you're at in your life besides just this?
Groveling for financial aid. Begging. I've been exercising my knees and begging on my knees, praying to Adonai every single night. And I'm trying to develop some new skills to see if schools will give me financial aid. I've learned how to juggle. I'm just kidding. I've gotten into a couple schools, but the schools I'm going into, they don't give money really. So, including the one we're standing in right here. I just got out of a meeting with admissions, and they were like, "Oh, we'd love to have you. You already got accepted. That's great. We don't give financial aid at School of Continuing Studies." And I was like, "Thank you so much for your meeting. I'm gonna go speak here." But until then, I'm just living, man. You know, I almost wasn't. So I'm appreciating life a lot more, and I'm working on a lot of different things in a lot of different places, whether they be political or, I mean, they're all political. But I'm keeping busy, and I'm exercising. It doesn't show, but I'm exercising. And, you know, how are you doing, man? Likewise, man.
We probably have time we'll take one in the room, and then I'll end with one from social media, which seems appropriate. Do you want to give the mic to her?
I want a hard-hitting one. You got any dirt on me? Hit me with it right now.
My name's Maria. I'm with Unidos US. I have it's not a hard-hitting one, but thank you so much for sharing, and I really appreciate the way you've spoken about some of the intersectional ways that this kind of violence impacts people's lives. And I hear that in what you're talking about in terms of the lives that are lost, but also it sounds like you've been targeted by a lot of the white supremacists that are being amplified and driving some of the violence that's happening across our country. How has that education happened for you, and what are the things that need to happen at the adult level so that we can talk about those things in a way that's really reflecting the impact on our society?
Well, it's a great question, and it's one that's difficult for me. And when you talk about things like that, you're talking about a lot of racial issues, and we've come to a point in time when it's almost poisonous to talk about them because we're in such an awful social climate where so many wrong things are happening that so many people are inherently inclined to believe that everywhere others come from is from a point of prejudice. And then people get mad. They say, "Why are you assuming I'm coming from a point of prejudice?" And that's them ignoring how much prejudice is being thrown around right now. So when I go out there and get death threats for criticizing Superintendent Runcie from my district, I was told that that my racist ass was going to be killed. And I just don't like it when people lie about money when they are in charge of a lot of children. And I was being threatened for the same issue by people who were calling me racist for criticizing a superintendent and white supremacists. I couldn't make anybody happy. And I talked about suicide in this room, and it wasn't as tense as when I talked about race. That's where we're at right now. I talked about thinking about putting a freaking gun in my mouth and pulling the trigger, and it was tense. But when I talk about anything involving race, it gets worse, because that's where we are right now. We are walking on thin ice. And I feel as though we've come to a point where where there's so much hate being given that the people who are looking at things objectively, people assume that they're hateful because there's this much hate. I'm criticizing, Superintendent Runcie is just an example, but if I'm criticizing the superintendent who is a person of color, I guarantee you, from my perspective, I'm not doing that because he's a person of color. I'd be doing that just as much if he was white. And then people come up to me and they say, "Why are you doing that?" And my initial reaction is, it doesn't matter, okay? I'm criticizing somebody, but there are a lot of folks out there who only don't like him because he's black. And it's my responsibility to make sure I approach that from the right way. Right now, there's as much evil as there is assumption that there is evil. So when we look at issues like that, people are afraid to approach them. And if you're afraid to approach issues like race and like white supremacy, we're not going to get anywhere. So I'm very uncomfortable right now. I don't know if you guys are. And I guess I'm going to have to be. And I'm going to have to keep on talking about it because I come from an area where a lot of people are not discriminated against because a lot of people do not live lives of discrimination. And I also have the responsibility to use my voice where I believe it needs to be. And I believe that I have, bless you, every right to criticize my local government. And that's just an example. So online, you see so much garbage, and the garbage is coming from everywhere. There's such amazing people out there fighting for civil rights, and there are such amazing people out there who are using their voices, but there are also people out there who are going to give you a bunch of nonsense just because you look like the way you do. And I never thought we'd have to talk about this in 2018. I mean, I never even thought about it because I was a child. I was in diapers, like, I'm 18 right now. I was in diapers like 4 years ago. And, sorry guys, that was awkward. But it's 2019, did I say 18? It's 2019, and race is just as much an issue as it has ever been. And running away from it is what we're all doing, and it's gonna take us nowhere, and every side of it is only gonna get worse.
Well,
Yes. I have a question for you. I have to do a talk back real quick. Question for you. What's your astrological sign?
Virgo?
Oh, I knew it. I'm just kidding, everyone.
Thank you for that. Yes, that was
One
really
last
thoughtful.
question for you from social media. What do you think adults don't understand about the way kids use social media?
People look at social media as something that is as bad as it is good. It's like 98% awful, 2% good. Your children are developing self-consciousness that they don't know about because of social media. The video that we just watched was brilliant. There are a lot of expectations being sent around because of social media. And one more thing I'll leave you all with is people like to praise social media activism a lot because that, large movements can be created. Please remember that social media activism is step one. You can tweet about something all you want, but there's a very, very big difference between saying you're an activist because you dislike everything Trump posts and saying you're an activist because you actually go out there and make things happen. And activism is gonna, because of tech, activism's gonna die. I bet a lot of people in this room remember protesting the war and going out there with your friends, fighting for what you believe in and having the cops beat the hell out of you. Activism when you're my age, at real Donald Trump. Boo! Thumbs down emoji. It's a big difference, everyone. Thank you so much. If we could just thank our host right now. Oh my God.
Thank
wow.
you so much to Cameron. Another round of applause. We appreciate you being here and your work.